We start with another chant from the Vedas, okay? It's a very interesting chant. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamaduchyate Purnasya Purnamataya Purnameva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Last is Om Peace Peace Peace. Okay. Now, please tell me if my voice goes low, because I speak very softly, so if you say, I'll increase my volume a bit. This mantra is also from the Rig Veda, comes from very old sources, maybe 2000 years ago or maybe more, we don't know. And it talks about completeness. Purna. Purna means completeness. I had a very good friend in Germany who used to live in Aachen many years. He's no more. His soul is in happiness, but he is no more physically. So when he wanted to learn this mantra, so I taught him. So he wrote it in German and stuck it in his car. And then after 1 week he said, what is this mantra? I said, Purna, Purna, Pur, 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 I can't chant it. So don't worry about chanting. So let me first literally translate it. Then we'll look into this. Purnam Ada means that is complete. Purnam Idam, this is complete. Purnat Purnamaduchyate, from that completeness, this completeness has come. String. Purnasya Purnamataya. If you take this completeness out of that completeness, sounds like Einstein. If this completeness has come from that completeness, still, Purnameva Avashishyate, the completeness remains complete. Which means from that completeness, nothing can be taken away. Although it appears as if it has stepped down a few steps and is this completeness, but actually nothing is minus when you take from it. It's not like you have a piece of bread. You eat one piece, one side, and the rest is become less. But here, you eat the bread and it's still full. People think it's a philosophical concept. It's not it is a philosophical concept also, but it is the reality. In the physical sciences, in the material sciences, Einstein hit it properly when he said that energy is always constant and it can neither be created nor destroyed. It can only be changed from one form to another. Now here, we are saying that the consciousness is also complete. And what you call energy is also consciousness. What we call physical material energy. You sitting here, I am sitting here, we think we are separate. This has come from that spiritual completeness. And even if this has become different, it's actually one. It can't be changed. It can't be subtracted because it is always full. It is fullness. I would call it fullness or completeness. You can use any word, you know what I mean. And that is why sometimes some great spiritual teachers, not like me, I'm always talking and making noise. Some great spiritual teachers are so absorbed in that fullness that like a full vessel, there's no noise. It's just full. You see, when it is half empty, then when you dip inside, sound comes when the water goes in. But when it is full, nothing to say. Which is why Ramana Maharshi, who lived in Tiruvannamalai, hardly spoke. I'm trying to bring this from that completeness to this completeness. From that abstract idea of completeness to how that completeness is touched by a human being and he becomes complete. And yet it remains the same. Nothing has been drained. Which is not like our ordinary life, normal life. Oh, right? We have a glass of wine and we wish it remains till evening, but it becomes empty very fast. And you want some more. So it is exhausted. It is finished. But here, perhaps, let's not believe now, but perhaps there is something which is inexhaustible and which is always there, and which you can't take anything out of it. Once you understand this, then you know you are part of it. Not even part of it. There is no you, then there is only that. That, it's very interesting. In another tradition, the Jewish tradition, there was this great prophet who goes up to the mountain, and the sacred mountain. Well, there have been sacred mountains there too. Anybody knows the name of the mountain where Moses went? Huh? Yeah, Sinai. Know it? Now we have Sinai summits and so on. But so anyway, he goes up the mountain, like we go up the mountains in the Himalayas. No less, you can go up here also. And he hears a voice saying, "You're on sacred ground. Take off your shoes." So we have put our shoes outside, right? Taking out your shoes means not bringing the dirt inside. It doesn't mean anything else. It means you walk around. There's a lot of dirt, you bring the whole dirt inside now. Keep it clean. And also with your shoes, some of you may have good shoes, some may have bad shoes, so your egos are left behind. You come free. So Moses is instructed. I'm trying to see another tradition, which is, I was now talking about the Indian tradition. I think they're linked somewhere. And I have now separated. So he takes off his shoes and enters. And then he says the burning bush. He says the burning bush because there's no other explanation. He hasn't seen anything like that before. There's a light behind the tree, the bush. So they call it the burning bush. Of course, nobody lit a fire, there was no burning bush. It's the light. So, a little confused and not knowing what this is all about, the prophet asks the question, "What is this? Who are you?" And the answer is very similar. The word used is very similar to the word in Sanskrit in the Upanishads, which says tat, which means that. Tat. When you say tat, it's actually, I think, maybe that is derived from tat. I don't know. It means that which is. That. And no one can define it. So, Moses hears the voice from the burning bush which says, in Hebrew, Ahiye, Asher Ahiye, which means I am that I am. I am that. I am. There's no way you can. And this is a perfect description of Tat, which is also called completeness, Purna. And that completeness pervades everything. There is nothing. And, as I said, some great teachers, having touched that completeness, don't even know how to express it, and they just keep quiet. But if someone has touched it, then when somebody goes there, gradually it penetrates without words. Look at me wasting my words. It just happens. I have sat with my master many times without speaking anything. Well, he did teach me many things, but many times if I asked him a question, he would say, "Shut up." Look at the river, watch the flow. I can't say that. There are many people who ask me questions. If I say, "Shut up," they get very upset. Then I had completely surrendered. So anyway, I'm talking about Ramana Maharshi, one of the people who perhaps touched that. And look at any of his pictures. Have you seen any picture of Ramana Maharshi with his eyes closed? No, they're open. Because there is no outer and there is no inner, it's all one. For him, we need to close a little bit to touch it. Perhaps in his early days he did close his eyes. But once he touched the completeness, if everything is complete, there is no distinction between the out and the in. It's over. We close because we are distracted. Well, I close because if I don't close, nobody will close their eyes. People ask me, do you every day practice Kriya? Do you meditate every day? I say, yeah. Why? Because if I stop, everybody will stop. They will go, we are illumined. It's all over, finished. So, I'm telling you this story because it will give you a picture of what we are trying to look at. We are looking at. I am not looking at, you and I are looking at. There was this very famous and very well known in India, not here, scholar, philosopher in the south, whose name was Ganapati Shastri. It was his name, you don't have to remember it, Ganapati Shastri. So, there was no section of Indian philosophy which he hadn't touched. He knew everything from Vedanta to Tantra to Yoga. Believe me, they're all different streams. Although there has been an attempt many times to bring them together, but they're different streams. Vedanta, Yoga, Tantra, all that. Bhakti, which is devotion. There was not a textbook existing in these matters which he had not read, and whose commentaries he had not read, and there was no technique he hadn't tried. He spent many years to. But he felt that there was always a barrier. There was a barrier between him and the truth which he was seeking, the completeness, the fullness. There was a barrier. Try as he might, he couldn't get free of the barrier. So he was looking for somebody who probably could help him, because study he had done enough. Nobody could teach him anything. I mean, as far as books and scriptures are concerned. So in this search, he went to Tiruvannamalai, and there somebody told him that there is a man sitting on the mountain up there He was not well known at that time. They said there's a Brahmin Swami sitting up there. Maybe you should go and see him. He might help you. Who knows? So he climbed up the mountain and went there. So when he went there, he saw Maharishi, Ramana Maharshi, sitting there quietly. His eyes were open as usual, but they were not focused on anything in particular. So he sat there for well over half an hour, but there was no sign of recognition, because he was not looking at him. It was just wide open, everything was there. After half an hour, he thought maybe he has noticed me. I'm sure he might have made signs, but nothing happened. Because suddenly his gaze narrowed down on him and he looked at him. And then he hardly talked. Many of the books you find are discussions by others who have heard him here and there and small. There's only one little booklet which is kind of complete. The rest is all conversations here. He looked at him, and instead of asking him verbally, he put up his hand and did like this, which means, what? Why have you come? What's the matter? Our friend Ganapati Shastri was ready for the coup, just waiting to see the signal. We started off. He told him his complete religious history, how he started, where he was, what he read, what he did, everything for half an hour non-stop, like a dam burst. And then he finished. And he said, now still there is a barrier between the truth and me. What should I do now? How do I break the barrier? Maharshi smiled and said, can you shut up for a minute? Too much material not digested. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What happened when you eat too much and it doesn't get digested? We're always in the toilet. So, I'm just trying to give you an idea of that which has no ideas. The rishis of the Upanishad said, how am I going to teach this to you? Because if you use words, it fails. If you don't use words, it remains untaught. So what do you do? So it is this completeness. Now, regarding this, I'm preparing you regarding this. I'm sure you might have gone into many traditions and know many things, but I need to. It's a satsang. If I shut up, I'm not Ramana Maharshi. Say, what's going on? They say satsang is out. So, there was a very, very learned professor, like our man Ganapati Shastri. This is in Japan. Very learned. He knew everything, including Laozi's teachings and Confucius, everything. And Zen, many things. He went to a Zen master and told him, Master, in Japan if you meet a master you must bow down so many times that very soon you get a backache. And he said, please teach me Zen. Teach me how to attain Satori. You know, in the Zen teaching, Satori is illumination, where you discover the oneness of everything, where everything is burst and there is only the river flowing. So he said, please give me Satori, teach me Zen. The master said, sit down, let's have a cup of tea. Which is strange. I come for a very serious affair, Saturi. And the man says, have a cup of tea. Silly. So he said, okay. But then with Zen masters, they're not like me. You can't say anything because you might get kicked. So he just kept quiet. So the master, not that, brought the tea and put a cup on the table and started pouring the tea. And the cup became full and he continued pouring the tea. So the tea was coming out of the cup. Now our professor was watching for some time, then he couldn't control himself. He said, sir, the cup is overflowing. So the master turned to the professor and said, your cup is overflowing. How can I give you Zen? Because whatever you put inside will come out. There is no space. So, this space has to be there to understand this, which in the Upanishad is called, in another Upanishad says, Isha Vashyam Idam Sarvam. It pervades everything here, everywhere. Now to touch that, of course, there are techniques to calm the mind and make, all that is fine. But deep down, psychologically, the preparation is to become empty, to have space, to not have prejudices, to not carry prejudices with us, to be free. You can go from any tradition, it doesn't matter. But there has to be space, and there are many kinds of space. One is philosophical space, which means too much of undigested matter is not going to help. Then there is psychological space. So first we'll deal with the psychological space. Our minds are so constantly occupied with something, almost obsessed, that there is no space to receive anything from infinite. First, in our own daily life, we are so caught up. Okay, now there are ways by which you can calm down. There is meditation, there are various things. Or go off into the mountains. Here we have beautiful mountains. You don't have to go away from home. Stay in your home and look. That's one side of the story. The other is the wounds and the hurts and the hatred that we carry in our hearts. This is the biggest barrier to space. It's muck. If you don't clean this muck, there is no space for it to happen. And when there is space, it doesn't have to come from outside. It is also here, inside. There is no barrier between outside and inside. Example. I'm talking about the psychological obsessions we have. Suppose I'm just going to use somebody's name, but it doesn't mean anything. Okay, nothing personal. Suppose this lady, Shalini, had some years ago given me a tight slap. I know you didn't, I'm just tight slap. Angry with me for not teaching her how to be free. And now I want to ask you this. There is no philosophy here, reality. How long does a slap last?
Very long.
Very long? In the mind. An actual slap, the physical action of a slap, lasts for 10 minutes, 1 day, or if your tooth is broken, maybe 2-3 days. Generally, it lasts for a few moments. There's a red mark, of course, if you're fair, and then fades off by evening. Over. Actual act of her slap is over. But will we allow it to go? No. We have the psychological slap. Why? She slapped me in public. How could she do this? What? For 20 years I will carry the slap in my head till it becomes a festering wound with pus. We are asking, is it possible to throw it off? Can we clear it? Now people look suspiciously at you, okay? Every night we go to sleep, right? Sleep is like a mini death. Yeah. We don't know where we are. We don't know what's happening. It's like a mini death. So can we, in the night when we sleep, before we go to sleep, throw this slap out to the window and get up in the morning fresh as if nothing has happened? Is this possible? I think it's possible. It requires a little bit of effort. And it's possible and it's true because actually the slap is not there, except in my mind like a tape recorder. Nowadays no tape recorder, like a CD. It keeps playing and playing and playing repeatedly. There is no peace, there is no space. I can't think. Moment I think, it's all settled down. Shalini slapped me. And practically this is possible to eliminate also, not only philosophically. Philosophically it is gone when you know that it really isn't there, it doesn't matter. Let's lead our life, throw it out of the window, move. This is the moment, this is actually the meaning of what Buddha said when he said his monks to go forth. Not necessarily mean walking. Go forth means get out of the stagnant little pool that you have created. Step out. Move. Right? So, when I was a young man, well, my mind is still young, but when I was a young man physically, with my master in the Himalayas, with Babaji, when he told me how to meditate, close your eyes, relax, and then open your eyes and look at the trees and the mountain, whatever, some techniques. When he taught me this, there was one problem. When I was young, there was one guy who troubled me a lot. So I could get rid of every image, everything. But the moment the mind was beginning to become calm, the image of this guy will come in front of me. And I didn't know what to do. I actually hated him. I'm being honest. So one day, with Babaji it was strange. You didn't have to tell him. So one day he walked past when I was sitting. And he said, "Why are you meditating on this guy?" किसका ध्यान करते हो? So I said, "Babaji, I can't help it. This guy, he's there." Okay? He said, "Fine. Every day?" I said, "Not every day, but many days." Okay. He said, "Next time when you sit down to meditate, even if he doesn't appear before your mind, you conjure him and deliberately bring him." I said, "But that's the end of my meditation." He said, "No, you bring this guy in front of you, make him stand in front of you, then bow down to him and touch his feet and say, 'You are the divine, come in some form to teach me a lesson.'" If possible, from your mind, imagine that you have some flowers and put it at his feet. Go down and say that you are a great teacher who has come in this form to teach me something. I am thankful to you. Please keep teaching me these lessons. First day was difficult for me. Second day, third day, okay. Believe me, on the sixth day, the man disappeared. The image didn't like me offering flowers and they thought that I I think there was something problem there from that side, not from my side. Since then till this day, I've not had a single problem from that memory. So sometimes we have to move forward from these memories. If they are pleasant memories, okay. But don't keep regretting, oh, it was so nice, now it's... As long as you say, oh, that was nice, that's fine. And when it is bad, throw them out, because they are not there now with us. So this is the psychological aspect of that. And I personally, my experience is that when you touch that completeness, which we all seek in some form or the other. Why do we think we live in this world? Because we are seeking to become complete. Well, I have a family, but I don't have children, so I'm not complete. Not me. I have everything, but I don't have a job, I'm not complete. I have everything, but I don't look nice, I'm not complete. And then the inevitable fate that I'm going to die, so I'm not complete. Who's going to live forever? So there is this desire, constant desire to become complete, to become full. This is how life is moving. And we never seem to find it outside. So if it can be found inside, you will also see it reflected outside. And it is my experience, and the experience of many, that it comes when our small little selfish personality, which is only thinking about myself, is gone. Then I think of you, I think of it. If your pain is my pain, it's no longer localized. And therefore, your happiness is my happiness. And this is not theory or philosophy, this is the experience of those who have touched that completeness, that Purna, that all-pervading something which is so indescribable that emptiness is the best word to describe it. But that is not the emptiness of nothing. It is the emptiness from which everything starts. Did I tell you the story yesterday about the banyan tree? It's that what looks to be empty to us, but which is full. And this world looks so full to us, but it is empty. When you understand that, the world is also complete. So we have now come in this stage of evolution of the human mind, average human mind, that we can find that truth right here, living in the normal, when I say normal way, wearing normal clothes, eating, drinking. When I say drinking, don't think it's only alcohol. And with a family, have a job. The days when you had to find the truth by running off into the cave is over. In this stage of evolution, we can evolve while we are here. In any case, if you go to a cave, well, if you are waiting for some practical ways of finding this, we'll come to that, don't worry. I'm not going to just talk theory and go home. Suppose I go to a cave. My master, Babaji, used to tell me, you go to a cave, you meditate for 30 years, 10 hours a day. And then you say, now I am free, I am joyful, I have touched that, I no longer have envy or jealousy or anger against anybody, I am free. So he asked me the question, inside the cave, Who are you going to be angry with? Is there anybody who get angry with? Are you jealous of the walls of the cave? Do you hate the cave? No. So how do you know that you are free of it? It's only when you come out. Of course, periods of solitude are very good, very important. I'm not saying that. But it can be tested only on this, in the world. He said, if you come out from the cave and then you get into the bus and somebody kicks you in the bus. You know, the buses in India are very crowded. And especially if she's wearing a stiletto heel, then you know if you have freed this beautiful bird there, white and black. Then you know that you have freed yourself from anger, from jealousy, from reaction. You don't know when you're sitting inside. Of course, you should sit for some time. You don't have to go to the cave. You can make your own room the cave in the house. There's a great writer who, when he sat down to write, put up a board at the door saying, if the house burns down, please don't call me. You can make your own cave at home. But what I'm trying to say, that it is when you interact with the world that you're really able to see where you stand or where I stand. Same thing. So therefore keep all these things in mind. And the paths are many. The goal is fulfillment, complete fulfillment, total fullness, completeness. This is what we are all seeking, every one of us, even those who are not spiritually inclined. They are seeking the same thing in a different way. But you never seem to find a solution. Now, if 2 or 3 people understand this and start living this way, I think we can change the world. Unfortunately, we really can change the world. If the people sitting here in this hall think, yes, you can change the world. Because you see, in the highest of spiritual experience, you actually see that you're one. You're not different. What I said was all talk and theory, but in actual experience. So, where do we start? I'm sure many people who have read my book would have read that I follow Kriya Yoga as my, we call it parampara, my tradition. But believe me, everybody does not have to be a Kriya Yogi to reach there. There have been several people who have touched that without practicing any Kriya whatsoever. Well, it's my tradition, but I'm telling you honestly, I have nothing to hide and nothing to protect. The Ramana Maharshi we talked about, what Kriya did he do? Nothing. And some great saints who found that just by love, what Kriya did they do? Nothing. So it's not as if only those who practice Kriya can, that would be terrible. What about others? This is not possible. If there is universal justice, this is not possible. However, I have found that Kriya is useful to make your mind quiet and tranquil, in calm. Because for all that we discussed, the starting point is a quiet mind, a tranquil mind. Without a tranquil mind is like a tarmac, like a runway from which you can take off. Swiss air. So, therefore, all practices, spiritual practices, are meant to bring about a tranquil and quiet mind. We will therefore, before this gathering is finished at some point, we will discuss the beginning of Kriya, because the whole of Kriya is a little, you might give up in 2 days. So we will discuss the preliminaries of Kriya. You don't have to pay for it freely. We'll come to that maybe tomorrow. What is Kriya? How is it done? And then perhaps the preliminaries, which you practice for some time and then discover if it works, and then get back to me. We can do that. But now, it's nearly 45 minutes since we started. I promised you yesterday that this is going to be a satsang, which means there has to be interaction. Right now, I've been speaking and speaking and speaking. I know I go and speak, people listen, it comes in from one ear, goes out through the other, then they go back, and we are back to square one.
So I have a question.
So, yeah. So, we... there's a famous man in India who wrote a book called The Argumentative Indian. I'm not saying about you. In India we have too much discussion, very much. But in the end, generally we come out through the other door. So, anyway. So I'm now going to lay it open so that we can discuss the matter. And since he put up his hand first, I'm going to ask him to say what he wants. His question.
So something which always plays in my mind.
Sir.
The basic difference in following the path of Dharma. And very often we hear that the spiritualists say, just have love and you achieve everything. And what is actually difference in the path of love and the path of Dharma?
You see, these are two words. These are just two separate words, but it means the same thing. The greatest Dharma is not to hurt others, not to create injury to others, not to cause grief to others, but to have affection towards everybody. This is the complete definition of Dharma. Some people think Dharma means, doing my duty. Ultimately all this has been prescribed to finally come to this. When a man does his duty, he is already less selfish because he is doing it for others. When he grows more, then everybody becomes his family. So he's working for everybody. That is Dharma. But this is how it starts. Okay? Now, there are some qualities which we need to develop to actually lead a dharmic life. When you say dharmic, it means a religious life. And these are, one is that we need to know how to keep our sense organs under control and not allow them to run mad. I'm not saying you should not indulge or use them. But like all things, there has to be a moderation. You should know when to stop and when to move. So that is the first step. And this you will find in the Bhagavad Gita. When Arjuna asks Krishna, according to you, who is the greatest of yogis? Who is the greatest of devotees? Please, can you give me a definition? Krishna says, doesn't matter how he worships me or in which way worship takes place, with form, without form, doesn't matter, but needs to have certain qualities of mind. If these qualities are there, I consider him to be the greatest of yogis. You will find it in the 12th chapter called Bhakti Yoga. And one quality first is that you will find that he has managed to keep his senses under control. And please, he is teaching it to Arjuna, who is not a monk. So it cannot be that he is asking him to be completely free of the senses. Keep them under your control and not allow your mind to run away with the senses. That's all. And the second, sarvatra samabuddhaya, which means to remain tranquil at all times, under all circumstances. Whether tulya ninda stutirmoni, whether somebody is praising you or somebody is insulting you or abusing you, can you maintain your equilibrium? Comes to practice. Can you maintain? In fact, I think it's better to be criticized than to be flattered. Because if somebody keeps flattering you, you might really believe what he says.
Yeah.
After some time. You know, for 100 days, if 100 people get up in the morning and say, "You're God," on the 101st day, I might think I'm God. Flattery is dangerous. So, one has to be careful. On the other hand, if somebody criticizes, at least you begin to wonder, let me examine myself. It's a good mirror, you know. So, both are equal. A yogi is one who, when there is pleasure, welcomes it. Doesn't run away from it, welcomes it. It's like calling a good friend. Pleasure comes, please come in, sit down, have a cup of tea, okay? Now time is up, get out. And when pain comes, the same treatment. Come, sit down, have a cup of tea, go home. So this is the other quality that is part of dharma, practicing of dharma. Sarvatra samabuddhaya. During all circumstances, keep your mind tranquil, because actually your true essence is that complete, all-pervading reality. Who cares what other people think? And then also, these are all meanings which we give to words. Suppose I don't know English and you call me a fool, what does it matter? I know Hindi, let's say, and you call me a fool. I might think you're calling me a flower, because in Hindi, fool means flower. So it's all constructed by us through language, through form. So to remain tranquil in the midst of circumstances. 2. And the third quality, sarvabhuta hiterata, to have the welfare of all living beings in your heart. These 3, because the dharma, the word you use, is from our tradition, Indian tradition. And the greatest advocate of Indian tradition is the Gita. So I am giving you this from the Gita as a definition for dharma.
So also for the ones who trouble. Also for the ones who trouble the person. Because if you look at Gita,
I'm not saying that somebody breaks into your house and tries to kill you, you shouldn't defend yourself.
okay.
That's not what I mean. You get what I mean? I am doing nothing. Somebody wants to come and trouble me, kill me, break. You have to defend yourself. But have no hatred. From the bottom of your heart, you must be committing a mistake. So what can you do about it?
So why did Lord Krishna ask Pandavas to forgive Duryodhanas? Why was the war needed? If the principle of love has to be...
This is a question which has been asked to me 100 times in India.
Sorry, I didn't know.
See, there are 2 things in this. The Bhagavad Gita is not only, it was written by Vyasa. It's not only a scripture of the situation at that point, it is also a situation of the mind.
Yes.
There are 2 warring factions in the mind. One is that which takes you down, the other which takes you up. So the request is, to be spiritual does not mean to become weak. Forgiveness is a great strength. It's not weakness. It's the weak who cannot forgive. It's a great strength. You stand on it. So it also has a spiritual and allegorical meaning. But as far as the practical is concerned, Arjuna was a king, and it was his duty to protect those who were pulling people down. And you know the meaning of Duryodhana?
Context, yeah.
What is the meaning of Duryodhana? Wealth of evil. Durya.
Yeah, without wisdom.
And dhana is wealth.
Yes.
So to keep such people at arm's length is useful for the administrators, not for us.
But the same situation also arises in the personal life, let's say in family relations. And people do wrong to you. And you want to be a good person, so you think, I should forgive or I should not forgive.
You should forgive.
Okay.
Because look, in the ultimate essence, nobody can really do anything to our true essence. If you are fixed there, then these things don't matter really. And in fact, when you are full, the fullness flows and you want to share it with others. And the fullness is always auspicious. It's called Shivam because it is auspicious. Not the Shiva who sits with the snake. That's a symbol of a yogi, but Shivam actually means consciousness, bliss, and auspiciousness. Chidananda Rupam Shivoham Shiv. That is in all of us. And to move towards that is the spiritual journey.
It's clear.
Yes. See, all from Indians.
So,
My country.
oneness is the essential nature of man. Why is it so difficult to experience it?
Huh?
If oneness is the essential nature of human being, why is it so difficult to experience?
I don't know. It's so difficult because everybody believes in differentness. And to say it's oneness, it's so difficult to understand. But once it is understood, that person finds that everything is one. Because we have been brought up like that. We have been taught to be so competitive. We have been taught that I am different, you are different. So this whole culture goes into, not only in India, also in the West, everywhere. There is this culture of isolation and separation which has buried this truth of being one. So now it is an uphill task to figure it out. One more from my country. Because there we have a large, big tradition of so many scriptures, so everybody is confused. I'm sorry.
What is the fine line between love and moha?
Could you speak up a bit?
He said, what is the fine line between love and moha? Now, what is moha, sir? Moha means
Possession.
obsession. Obsession. I said yesterday, do you remember what I said? That this is a beautiful world, no question. It's complete in itself. There are beautiful flowers, there are beautiful other things, there are beautiful children, kids, there are beautiful ladies, there are beautiful men. It's all there. There is no harm in giving love and sharing love. But when it becomes an obsession, when I become possessive about it, when I want this for only myself. You see this beautiful garden, there are flowers. The moment I decide I need to pluck this flower and put it in my pocket, the problem starts. If it is there, it's fine. This is the difference between moha and love, because that is an obsession. Do you know that the famous English dramatist was Irish. George Bernard Shaw. George Bernard Shaw, it was said, loved flowers. So a journalist went to his house and said, I heard that you love flowers. Why is it that I don't find any flowers in your house, in the flower vase? And nothing, there are no flowers. And people say you love flowers. So he opened the window and look at the garden there, they're beautiful, he said. Lovely flowers. I also love children very much. I don't cut their heads and put them in vases inside my house. To do that is moha. To see it and appreciate and love it is love.
Practically speaking,
You can.
For example, I love my grandson very much.
Okay.
Okay. Now, every time, every day I call him.
Okay.
He calls me every day.
Okay.
Where do we stop?
You have to stop somewhere. Well, I'm a married man myself. I have 2 kids who have got married. They still haven't got children, so I can't tell you how I would be at that point. No, it's practical. But, you see, to love your own child or your own grandson is not a big deal. Everybody does that. We are chemically built to do that. Even the monkeys love their kids. No offense meant. Right? You see how they hang on to their tummy when they go? But if I say, I love also somebody else's grandson, then I am growing. But it's not easy because there is this blood connection, you know. It's not so easy. So in the spiritual life, as you go up, things change. You not only love what you think is yours, but also what others think is theirs. This growing is what is called love. And it takes time for different people, it takes different time. Everybody doesn't have the same speed of growth. And you don't have to imitate anybody. And there is nothing wrong in loving your grandson. I'm not saying that. It should not become an obsession in the sense that one day if I